Hello and welcome to Matchday 42 of Championship Predictions from the Honest Football Podcast. I'm Craig Savage. With me, as always, is Daniel Cody and Charlie Betts. Let's have a quick recap of the midweek games. We are recording this on Thursday. The fourth game at the bottom hasn't played yet, so let's get to the first three. 1 point for Daniel Cody and Charlie Betts. Myself, I have 4 points, where one was the correct scoreline, and that was Sheffield Wednesday 0, Swansea 2. So the points look like this. I'm on 306 points with 53 perfect scores. Daniel Cody's on 286 with 46 perfect scores. And Charlie Betts is on 258 with 35 perfect scores. So let's move on to Friday's game. It is Blackburn Rovers versus Derby County. Charlie, Blackburn Rovers got nothing to play for. Derby have got something to play for because Rotherham won on Tuesday, puts them right back in the mix.
As we know, I'm not great at predicting stuff, as this whole series has shown, but I famously said a few episodes ago, that I thought Derby are out of it, and results have completely gone against them on their part and also around them, and obviously they're back in it. So there's two ways of looking at that, in my opinion. There's the fact that Blackburn have got nothing to play for and have not been in great form, and we spoke about that sort of, I think, at length. Now, either Derby then would, you'd fancy them because of the fact that Blackburn, won't necessarily have that impetus to want to go out and win a game on a Friday night, particularly, or the pressure, which is the way I think it might go, because away from home, Derby concede a lot more goals. Their goal difference away from home is minus 11. Admittedly, I know that it's minus at home, but they are worse away from home and have been under Wayne Rooney for all the good things that he's done there. On that basis, though, this weekend, I'm going to go for an unbelievable Tony Mowbray special 2-0.
Cody?
I'm not sure it'll be 2-0 because Blackburn and clean sheets haven't gone together in the last 4 games. However, what I will say for Derby is the last time they played a side that weren't fighting for the playoffs, it was Luton Town at home and they won 2-0. Albeit it wasn't a hugely convincing display, they got the result. So away from home, as Charlie says, they haven't been great. But Blackburn, they just can't buy a win. So I'm going to have to go for a draw. I'm sorry to sit on the fence to start with, but I'm going to go for the Championship's favourite scoreline, 1 apiece.
I'm going to go the same way as you, Cody, on a draw as well. I don't think this will be a very good game. I don't see these teams scoring. Yeah, Blackburn have been woeful. Derby in and out. I'm going to go with 0-0. Right, big game for the playoff race. It is Reading versus Cardiff, 7 versus 8, Cody. One of these teams really need to win to actually catch up into the playoff spots.
Yeah, you're right. And I guess the one thing I would say is Cardiff have been a lot better away from home this season. And really, it is last chance saloon because they're now quite a way behind. For Reading, as you say, the same could apply if they don't get a result in this one. They're already 5 points off now because Bournemouth, as we mentioned, have taken advantage in their games in hand. Barnsley don't look like dropping off anytime soon. So I think the game's more important to Reading. I think they have to get a result. But I don't think they will. I'm going to go for 2-1 to Cardiff. I think on the road, Mick McCarthy's side will be stronger.
Charlie?
Yeah, I can see where Dan's coming from. And actually, I do think, we mentioned it before, I know they got sucker punched against Blackburn, but that was a better performance for Cardiff. And they have looked better, and we talk about this stat all the time, but they have looked better against teams that they can hit on the counter. I think Mick McCarthy's very good at that. He's made a career out of that. I think Reading are going to keep a lot of the ball. They're going to have a lot of possession. And as we know in the Championship, that quite often leads to at least a draw, if not a loss. Which is where I'm going to go. I'm going to split down the middle because I think Reading still have got too much going forward. But what you do get with Mick McCarthy and Cardiff at the minute is a lot of goals. So similar to their result of the weekend, 2 match days ago, I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw.
These two teams obviously stalled in the last 5 games, really. Both 1 winning 5 for both sides. Considering Cardiff a few weeks ago were looking really strong, really, really strong. Reading at the early form, and they've dipped since then. And I can't see these two teams breaking each other down, to be fair. So I'm going to go for the Championship's favourite scoreline of 1-1. Right, up next, it's a London derby. It is Brentford versus Millwall. Charlie, we didn't really see Millwall losing 3-0, considering they won the last 3 games.
We have spoke about maybe a little bit of that impotency up front. I know they picked up results. Even the ones they've won, it's been by the odd goal and they haven't had loads of shots. So you could obviously praise the fact that their strikers are taking the chances they've got, but the lack of creativity will show against the better side. Even Swansea, who aren't in great form, were defensively too strong for them. The problem is that Brentford quite often defend with little abandon. So I don't know where to go with this. And I don't know where Brentford. It's so hard to, because you worry about the mentality. The pressure's back on them now in the sense of, although Swansea are maybe just above them by 2 points, but they've got that game in hand. So I think we're going to have another Brentford special. I think they might throw a bit of a wobbly, and I'm, against all the probably better judgment, going to go for a 1-0 Millwall win.
I'm going to go opposite way of a 1-0 Brentford win, to be honest. They are unbeaten in 5. All right, 4 of them were draws, but they got that win at the last weekend. Needed the win because, all right, and they won in very convincing fashion against Preston away from home 5-0. I think Brentford should win this game, but obviously, as you said, Charlie, they do throw wobblies. They have been doing that in the last couple of months, throwing those old wobblies in. But I think they'll have just about enough to beat Millwall. So I'm going to go for 1-0 to Brentford. Cody.
Could not disagree more. And as a result of that, Craig, we haven't said it for a while because you keep copying my outcome so you don't lose more than 2 points. But someone's going to get a point because I've gone for a draw. And the reason I've gone for a draw is Millwall this season, if you go by the home and away form tables rather than just the overall table, they're actually in the top 6 on away form. Brentford have been somewhat draw specialists recently. Millwall have been draw specialists all season. And for a Brentford side, albeit they heavily beat a Preston team who, let's be honest, under caretaker management, they've done the job. They've got the flip-flops on their away already. So for Brentford, I think it's going to be a struggle in this game. We'll go back to the 4 straight draws beforehand. I don't want to go 1-1 every time. So, do you know what? I know it's Brentford, but let's go for a blank. Goalless draw.
Coming up next, it's the big one for us. It is Luton Town versus Watford at Kenilworth Road. Cody, yes, Watford on decent, very, very good form, should I say. Luton, a bit mixed match, but a derby's a derby, and the form book goes out the window.
This is true to an extent, but you say a derby's a derby. If anyone remembers the reverse fixture back at the, 4th, 5th game of the season, it is one of the worst games of football. Yeah, it's one of the worst games of football I have watched this season. Luton had been in poor form, and if Wycombe hadn't have gone down to 10, I'm not sure we would have got a result out of that game. And even then, it relied on a couple of fabulous finishes that won't go in every week. Watford have been scintillating. For me, I mean, they're up basically, aren't they? Let's be honest. The top 2's pretty much decided. The only thing that I don't know if it's my heart over my head saying to go for a draw just because it's a derby, but if we're being real, it's going to be a Watford win. I'm going to go for 2-1 because I think it'll be a tight game still.
Yeah, and it looks like we're not going to play him again next season because it looks like you are going to get promoted. Got that massive points difference. I can't see them throwing a wobbly now. And it's going to start this weekend because Luton are going to win 2-0. You heard it here first, people. I'm going for heart over heads. So Luton 2, Watford 0, Adebayo and Dewsbury Hall are going to score the goals. This is going to throw egg in my face. I'm saying to all the Watford people I know. Charlie.
Obviously, Watford have been in amazing form, and credit to Xisco, and we sort of were maybe a bit sceptical of his appointment, but I think he's done a fantastic job. Away from home, Watford are definitely lower scorers. For a team that's in the top, who are going to probably get promoted, so only scored 18 goals away from home, suggests a lot of 1-0 wins, which is what I'm going to go for. So it's actually one of the lower scorers in the league, but obviously they've still conceded less than 18. They've conceded 15, so that shows defensively how strong they are. And Luton, as much as that against Wycombe, that was obviously an amazing 10 minutes. You could argue, like you mentioned earlier, about the game being even. I'm still not convinced they're firing on all cylinders up top. I know Adebayo's been great, but outside of him, it seems to be a bit of a problem with Luton. They have one striker in form, and if you can nullify him, it sort of stops Luton a little bit. Same with James Collins earlier in the season. When he stopped scoring, Luton sort of stopped scoring. So on that basis, I think I'm going to have to go for a 1-0 Watford win again, just by the fact that the numbers are suggesting that, which means it'll probably end up 4-4. But 1-0 Watford.
Next up at the roadside, it is Middlesbrough versus Queen's Park Rangers. It's a Neil Warnock special. Charlie, this game's really got nothing to play for.
I don't really know what to say because, QPR, I mentioned it in the previous one. It's not to blow sunshine up the result that I got, but QPR midweek, away at Rotherham, fairly inclement weather. They were never going to fancy it. I know they went a goal ahead, but you could just see that. For me, I don't know. I really don't want to go with this, so I'm going to go for a whopping 3-3 draw. Goals galore.
I won't go for a whopping 3-3 draw. I don't think this will be the best game in the world. These two teams got nothing to play for. QPR did lose to Rotherham on Tuesday night, so they'll be probably a little bit more tired. I'm going to go for a Neil Warnock win, 2-1. Cody.
Yeah, I agree with you on the Middlesbrough win purely because both teams have been in pretty good home form recently and pretty disastrous away form. Middlesbrough unbeaten in the last 3 at home. Good draw against Watford. Comfortable wins against Preston and Stoke, who also had nothing to play for. Away from home, QPR. Against Rotherham, there were alarm bells. They might have saved Rotherham with that. Against Forest, they were poor. I just can't see them on the road picking up another point this season. So I have to go for a Middlesbrough win. I don't think Middlesbrough is fluent in front of goal. Only 2 in the last 4 games. So 1-0 for me. Back to the start of the season for Neil Warnock.
Right, up next, Chrissy Hooton's Nottingham Forest. They're at home to Huddersfield Town. Cody, Forest pretty much done and dusted with these unbeaten in 4 games. Huddersfield had that game in hand on Tuesday night. Didn't take the opportunity. They're right back in it again.
Yeah, I mean, I know Bournemouth were fighting for something as well, but it just goes back to the old stat: more possession, didn't do enough with it, and they've got to look over their shoulders now, really, because Nottingham Forest have just about got themselves clear. But with that Rotherham win, Huddersfield are only 5 points clear now, and Rotherham have still got games in hand. So if one of Coventry and Derby pick up a win, you start to think, could it be us? So I can't see past a Nottingham Forest win. I think Chris Hughton will want that result just to get past the 50 mark so he can get the flip-flops on as well. But they've got a better goal difference than almost everyone in the bottom half. So I'm going to go for a classic Chris Hughton 1-0 win.
Charlie?
Yeah, no, I have to go for a Chris Hughton win as well. I mean, last time Huddersfield played a half-decent team away from home, they got beat 7-0. And I know that there's been games since then, but you do have to think about that's still going to, there's still going to be, we've all played even at grassroots level, there's still the hangover of that when you do that next away trip. It does play on your mind. Forest, I mean, against Bristol City, 16 shots. Admittedly, they drew a blank 0-0, same old Nottingham Forest. However, that was against Bristol City, who agreed have been terrible at home, but I would argue are defensively better than Huddersfield. I just think Huddersfield just give so much space away in and around their own half, particularly around that 18-yard box. It's worrying for me that even an out-of-form striker, which Forest seem to have a plethora of, if you know what I'm saying, surely he's going to bag one or two in that. So I can see it opening up a bit, if I'm honest, because of that reason that pretty much Huddersfield are getting dragged down there. So I think there'll be an early goal, and then I'm going to go for two late ones. 3-0 Nottingham Forest.
I'm glad you said 3-0 because I'm going to go 2-0. Yeah, I think Forest will have enough. They are creating more chances now. They are finally taking them chances because we've moaned about for months that they're creating the chances, but they're not scoring enough. And recently they have been taking their chances. Huddersfield, on the other hand, yeah, confidence-wise, it's going to be low again because that I know obviously it's Bournemouth and obviously Bournemouth obviously striding for the playoffs and want to get promotion again, but you've got to win your home games, and they're not doing that at the moment. So I think away from home is going to be obviously a lot different, but Forest to win 2-0. Right, up next at Hillsborough, it is Sheffield Wednesday versus Bristol City. Cody, are Sheffield Wednesday done?
No. If they lose this game, they're done. But they're not going to lose this game. I'm sick of trying to explain it, so I'm just going to say this. Sheffield Wednesday, over the season, have been mid-table at home. Bristol City have nothing to play for. If they can't win this game, unfortunately, the writing's on the wall and probably deservedly so. But Bristol City have not been great since Nigel Pearson probably got them over that 50-point mark or towards the safety mark. They've been poor since. They don't look like winning a game. They've scored 1 goal in 5 games. Sheffield Wednesday have to win, and for me, they have to keep a clean sheet. I'm going big, 3-0.
Big game for Sheffield Wednesday because Bristol got nothing to play for. They haven't really been spectacular. This could be one of these games Sheffield Wednesday should win, in my opinion. But I'm not going to go for that because it's too obvious. I don't think it'll be enough. I'm going to go for Sheffield Wednesday 2, Bristol City 2. Charlie?
I'll tell you where I am with this. I think even if Wednesday get a result, I don't think they'll have enough to get up, to stay up personally. So there's 2 ways of looking at it then. You're looking at, there's a lot of lads out of contract in the summer. Are players then playing for their future at the club, or are they trying to get a move elsewhere? Do you know what I mean? It's that dynamic that even if they are getting relegated, you know, the players have to think, we spoke to enough of them through this podcast, players think of their future. Does that raise their performance? But I agree with what Dan's saying about Sheffield Wednesday being mid-table in terms of at home, but Bristol City somehow mid-table away from home in the form table. So I'm going to save my I told you so about Nigel Pearson for the end of the season. And all of those comments will be responded to from the video about it. No, I'm joking. No, I'm not going to go on about it, but he has been underwhelming, or his team has been underwhelming. Maybe that's unfair of me to say that. So maybe Wednesday will have enough, but I think it'll be a barnstormer. I think Wednesday defensively are still so many issues, and I think that will start to creep into their home form as the pressure starts to mount up. But I think Bristol City have been so much worse that there'll be a 5-goal thriller, 3-2 Sheffield Wednesday, last-minute injury time goal.
Right, up next is Stoke City versus Preston. Charlie, obviously this game's got nothing to play for as well, but with Preston, on the other hand, 2 steps forward, 1 step back after that 5-0 defeat.
Yeah, I think we're at the stage now of the Championship where everything starts to go out the window a little bit in the sense of there's teams fighting obviously for promotion, relegation, and then there's those teams in the middle, which sometimes leads to just unbelievable games of football that end up 5-4 or something like that, when neither team's got anything to play for. Defensively, they're all over the shop and stuff like that. And I can just see that with Preston. They just have the habit of doing that. And I know Stoke have been in woeful form, to be honest. I'm really not sure what's happened with Michael O'Neill's team the last couple of months, to be brutally honest. You know, they picked up the result, but generally have been poor. But they do occasionally have this game where it ends up 3-3 or something like that. And I just think Preston are so bad at the back and Stoke are so defensively unsound that I can just see lots of goals in this. With no football reason whatsoever, I'm going to go 4-3 Preston, because it's one of those games where no one expects anything from it. No one expects anything from it. I guarantee you between now and the end of the season, there'll be a mid-table game that has 7 or 8 goals in it. I promise you. It always happens every single year in every league. It's 4-3 Preston. This is the one.
I don't think there'll be many goals in this game, to be honest. As much as Charlie wants a 4-3 thriller, I'm going to go Championship scoreline 1-1. I've got no real interest in it. When these two teams have got nothing to play for, I've got no real interest of predicting it, and it somehow just come right. So I'm going to go Championship scoreline 1-1. Daniel Cody.
Yeah, to be fair, it's not top billing of the weekend for importance, but Preston on the road have been better since the new caretaker came in. A good win at Swansea. At home, they've not looked a good side. But it's been the story of the season. They've only drawn one away game. So Preston either will win or lose. I don't agree with you, Craig, that they'll get another draw. But Stoke are on holiday. And they had a chance to get to the playoffs. And that Millwall game was so crucial. And I think Michael O'Neill's going to have a big overhaul in the summer. So I'm going to go for Preston to win comfortably. And I'm going to go for... I'll do what I did with Sheffield Wednesday in reverse. 3-0 Preston.
Right, up next in South Wales, it's his Swansea versus Wycombe Wanderers. Daniel Cody, I think you have to give Wycombe credit because they were really good against Luton for 80 minutes and then unfortunately lost the game 3-1.
Yeah, I can only say the same again, which is with 11 men, they wouldn't have lost that game. They probably wouldn't have drawn it. And we said, or two of us said, we could only see a Wycombe win pre-match. And for about 75 minutes, that looked right, even with the 10 for the first 15 minutes. Swansea are back in form, though. The first week that I didn't go for them to get back to the law, they achieved the law. Wycombe have been in good form, but that result, it's got to be the one. And unfortunately, I think Wycombe, we can all admit, are down now. And equally, I think the confidence will be gone too. So I'm going to go for Swansea to double the law this time and get a 4-0 win.
Very quickly, red card. Do you think it was a red card?
Is that a bit harsh, to be honest? But I'm not going to complain as a Luton fan. I thought it was a hard yellow or a soft red.
I mean, I'll be honest, I thought when you announced this game, Craig, I thought it'd be a race for who could get the law first. And it's been left open for me. So it's like a striker with an open goal. I'm probably going to skewer it wide, but I'm going to go for 2-0 Swansea.
Yeah, I think all three of us are going to agree that Swansea are going to win this game and Wycombe still technically can survive, but with this game could potentially send them down. But not without a fight. So you've got to give them credit. But Swansea, yes, they have been leaking goals despite the 3-0 win against Millwall. So I'm going to go Swansea 3, Wycombe 1. Right, up next at Carrow Road, it is Norwich City versus Bournemouth. A win for Norwich or results go with Norwich sends them up. So, Cody, it's not going to be easy for them because it is against a very good Bournemouth side.
Yeah, and let's be fair, in the league, in the last month and a half, the only thing Bournemouth have known how to do is win. And you've got to give Jonathan Woodgate credit. And we all doubted him, I think, it's fair to say, in some shape or form. But they've been consistent. They've not conceded more than one in a game. And they're always scoring goals. So I'm going to say that with Norwich having a chance to all but wrap up the title is when it will go wrong. I still think they'll win it, but I think it will be a blip in the road this time. So on TV, Bournemouth are going to win by 2-1. And I'm just going to stick it out there. Bournemouth will get third.
Yeah, I think Norwich will wrap this up this weekend, to be honest. And yeah, they have been the best team and thoroughly deserve to be promoted. They've run away with it, to be honest. But it's not going to be as convincing as I asked you, Cody. I think it's going to be 1-0 to Norwich. Charlie?
I can't believe I'm saying this because it's the two most informed teams in the league, but I'm going to go for a 0-0 draw. And I'll tell you for why. Both teams, as much as you've said about Bournemouth, and I completely agree with you, both teams defensively have been incredible. I mean, particularly under Woodgate, and I'll hold my hands up and eat some humble pie over that one. I didn't think he'd be as successfully as. Norwich have got the least amount of goals conceded at home of any team in the league. So I think both teams will almost cancel them out. Woodgate is not going to go there and try and outplay Norwich. That's one thing I think any tactician would be, half a brain would think, we're not going to try and outplay Norwich, but we can outwork them a little bit and probably be a bit more dogged and try and hit them on the counter possibly. But I think Norwich are too strong at the back as well. So I think they'll both cancel each other out, both styles of football. So I'm going to have to go a lot of Norwich possession, but no goals, 0-0.
And let's move on to Sunday. It's a massive, massive game down at the bottom of the Championship. It is Rotherham United versus Birmingham City. Now, Rotherham haven't played Coventry at the time of this recording. Rotherham did pick up the victory against QPR on Tuesday. Charlie, do Rotherham get out the bottom three, as you predicted, the 6 points in this midweek? Do you think they're going to get 9 points out of 9?
Oh, I don't know. See, anyone watching this on paper would go, the hardest game to predict this week at this match day would be Norwich-Bournemouth. But for me, this is it. Birmingham have been We lost one in the last 5 under Lee Bowyer. He's made them very dogged. He's made them very sound at the back. Oh, I don't know. But then Rotherham potentially, if they win tonight, that puts them level on. In fact, that puts them above Coventry, doesn't it, on goal difference? If we're going by that game in hand. But then if Birmingham win, they must be all but be safe. They'll be on 48 points by that point. The other teams and the form that's around them, that'd be safe. So this weekend, Birmingham could pretty much, rule themselves safe, which would be an amazing achievement under Bowyer. Oh, I think it's a bridge too far. One step too far for Rotherham. 2-1 Birmingham.
Cody.
I think there's only 2 possible scores to this game, which are a drab 0-0, which Birmingham will be playing for away from home, as they did against Brentford. And if Rotherham get 6 points out of 6, they wouldn't mind a draw, let me tell you that as well, at the end of 3 games in 5 days. The other outcome is Rotherham are shattered after Tuesday and Thursday. With a relatively small squad, it will then be 3, 4 or 5 to Birmingham. So I don't know which way to go. 0-0.
Oh, big call. Big call.
Don't go 4-0 Birmingham, please.
No, I'm going to say one of us is guaranteed a point because I'm going to go for Rotherham to beat Birmingham. I really hope Rotherham do this because to have so many games in a short amount of time with a small squad is remarkable. I think it would be, if they survive, it'd be better than probably Luton and Barnsley last season, in my opinion. Considering all the COVID outbreaks at Rotherham, I'm going to go Rotherham to win this game 2-0. And the final game is another team down at the bottom. Coventry City, they are at home to Barnsley, are also fighting in the playoffs. Barnsley are pretty much there in the playoffs, Cody.
Yeah, they are. And away form's been brilliant. They were great at Luton in the last away game. We saw that, of course. Dispatched Bournemouth. They were the last team to beat Bournemouth in the league and did well at Wycombe as well. Coventry, albeit sliding towards the relegation zone because of other teams' games in hand. We obviously don't know what's happened on Thursday night, but they've won 2 of their last 3 home games and drawn the other. So they're in decent home form still. But against Barnsley, they're up against someone who've got something to play for at the top end of the table. I think Coventry, unfortunately, I can't see where it's coming from. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 Barnsley win. I think it'll be a close game, but Barnsley will cement the playoffs and Coventry possibly cement themselves in the bottom 3.
Charlie.
Yeah, I have to go for a Barnsley win. I can't see where Coventry goals coming from. We've sort of been fairly vocal about that. I don't know. I can't see where another win's coming from. I'm just looking at their fixtures now. So I've got Barnsley, possibly Stoke. They've got Stoke on Wednesday. But then after that, Preston, who away from home, as we mentioned, are stronger. Huddersfield and then Millwall. I honestly don't know where that win's going to come from. Barnsley are too strong. They're too free-flowing. Coventry really don't cope with the pressure very well, as they've proven. They beat Bristol City, who were woefully out of form. So I don't know how much do you read into that. So for me, I can't see where another win's coming from this season. And I know I'm going to get probably a few pelts in the comments for that, but I'm not being antagonistic. I'm being genuine. I honestly, if they cannot score, I cannot see where the goals are coming from. And I can't see where the wins are going to come from. So on that basis, 4-0 Barnsley. I'm
going to go one less than Charlie's prediction, to be honest, because I feel like, well, we watched Barnsley a couple of weeks ago against Luton, Cody, and I thought they were really good, Barnsley. And DK, obviously he scored 2 that day. I could see him scored a few more against this Coventry back line. I really do. And they do look strong defensively. So I'm going to go 3-0 to Barnsley. And let's have a quick recap of what we just predicted for this match day. I've only gone for 1 away win out of all 12 fixtures, and that was Barnsley right at the end. Charlie has gone for 5 teams to score 3 goals, and Daniel Cody has gone for a couple of 0-0s, Brentford, Millwall, and Rotherham, Birmingham. And those are our predictions for this weekend. Do you agree with us or disagree with us? Let us know in the conversation down below and give us your predictions for this weekend's action. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Honest Football Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at HonestFootball3. And we'll see you next time.